Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. I want to thank you for joining me for another Age Reforged replay battle. Today I've got a 1v1, something we haven't really done in a long time, and that's a shame. I know people like the larger spectacles, but the 1v1s can be very, very tactical, and this is indeed a tactical game. Now, let me also preface this a little bit by saying that, yes, a lot of people have complained about good factions being too weak, or in particular elves, but I think that you guys need to... Some of the people don't actually play the game, which is a little bit strange to me as to how you can complain about something you haven't actually experienced for yourself. But some people they wanted to see replays where the elves or the good factions did well. So that's kind of what I'm on a mission to do today. So today I have a 1v1. This is going to be Imladris versus the Misty Mountains, one of our very, very strong factions indeed. And Imladris have received a fair amount of buffs. Well, a reasonable amount of buffs in any case in the latest hotfix. One of the most important is that the Imladris riders actually can upgrade their armor, I think, twice now. So when you upgrade them fully, they have 12 armor, and this is what I have today. I have 2 units here of the Imladris riders fully upgraded, and also the Untitled Cavalry have gotten a nice buff as well. They got some more melee defense, and they got an armor upgrade as well. So they can go up to about 8 armor, which is about half plate in terms of our stat book. So that's pretty damn good. And it really does increase their effectiveness quite a lot. So I've got 2 companies of the Untitled Cavalry as well, fully upgraded. I've also got, I believe, 3 units of Eldarmakar, fully upgraded. 3 units of Eldaritar, who don't have any upgrades, unfortunately, so I won't be able to show off that beautiful model to you today. A couple units of Eldar Quinga, a couple units of Imladris Sentry, so very much a holding force here. Not a ton of infantry, I got about 9 or so infantrymen, but still, it's significant. Another unit of Imladris Riders over here. Then I have my Imladris Sentinels, who are an anti-cavalry unit. They are spear cavalry, so that's pretty cool. And they have a lot of armor as well, and a fair amount of melee defense. I think they've got about 10 armor, 10 melee defense, or 10 armor and 11 melee defense, something like that. Another company here of the Untitled Cavalry, but the centerpiece of my army is going to be these guys, the Age who are now they're a proper knight unit. And they are very, very strong indeed. And they can also upgrade their armor, but I don't think it really changes the model. They don't have their armor upgraded in this instance, but this is going to be a very strong unit from now on. They're already very strong, but now they're a little bit more anti-cavalry focused. Imladris in general has really gotten some nice buffs to their anti-cavalry and to their cavalry quite generally. And this is going to be where my general's bodyguard is hanging out. So that does it for my army. Let's go ahead and see what my opponent has brought to the battle today. Across the field for me, we have the Orcs of the Misty Mountains being commanded by a lucky Hussar. And actually, he's got a couple of his teammates, clanmates, are going to be in here observing as well, but they've actually admitted defeat. So if you guys are wondering what was going on with the deployment zones there, well, now you know. But in any case, he's got a really nice Misty Mountains army. In fact, he's got a unit here of Warg Skirmishers, 2 units of Warg Riders, all of who got a little bit. It's a minor buff. They got about 5 extra men in the unit for the Warg Riders, and he's got where are they? He's got some bulk champions as well. So superiority unit, more or less equivalent to my Gwythi Rockdor. Not going to be an easy fight at all for my my cavalry forces, who are a majority both lancers and bow cavalry, but we'll see how that works out. He's also got some heavy goblin archers on his front line here, and I believe 2 units of the regular old goblin archers. He's got a solid front line of 3 units of heavy goblin spears, who are now limited to 3, and they're going to stretch quite a long ways indeed. A couple units of Black Rooks of the Mountains, and he's got some heavy goblin infantry in behind them. I think he's got about 3 units of heavy goblin infantry, and finally, got a unit here of the Cave Trolls, who are a little bit... The model is really good looking, but they do kind of clip into themselves a little bit just because of the animations that they use. So right here you can see this guy just sticking his hands into his paunch, which is a little bit silly, but ultimately I think it is a really nice model, and it adds a lot to the Misty Mountain faction. It makes them feel very unique. Actually, they've got big tree logs and stuff here, so if you guys have played Battle for Middle-earth, well, that's going to be pretty familiar to you. But yeah, also he's got a unit here of the Cave Troll Drummers, which have the same model. So Misty really looking nice here. Very very unique, very appropriate for the Misty Mountains, who most of their troll picks are going to be the Cave Trolls. They've also got the Snow Trolls as well, but they're not actually going to be present on the battlefield today. So that does it for the army comps. Let's go ahead and get into the replay. Hope you guys enjoy it. Now, one of the things I noticed really early on is that he doesn't have a ton of archers, and the archers that he does have, my Imladris Riders actually outrange. So I know that I can be very aggressive with my bow cavalry here, and I'm going to try and pick on his wargs as much as possible. I want to eliminate the wargs if possible, but weaken them as much as I can at the very least. So I've actually got both of my units here of the Imladris riders moving around to either wing, trying to bully his wargs out of position. It's going to be kind of... I'm looking at the way that he moves them away from my Imladris riders, and I'm kind of thinking might do something a little bit Border Collie-ish and try and herd them into kill zones, essentially. Trying to herd his Warg Riders into my other unit of Imladris Riders. But at the moment, I'm just kind of observing and trying to figure out exactly how I want to approach this, because of course he does have a lot of archers as well. He is going to be able to fend me off reasonably well, although, as I said, the Imladris Riders, fully upgraded, do have 12 armor, and that is far in excess of anything that the Goblin Archers can do in terms of damage. But over time, they will whittle them down. Even 1 damage arrows have a chance to kill like a 40 armor unit. It's all based, as far as I can tell, on probabilities. So volume of fire for the Goblin Archers is going to be really useful for them. But let's take a look at my infantry formation as well. Just want to talk a little bit about kind of what I was thinking here. So it's a smaller, very orderly blob. Not so much a blob. It's more of like a wafer, really, a wafer of elves. That's it. But I've also deployed my stakes on my wings as well, because I want to avoid. I know that I can keep my backline safe with my Imladris sentries, but I want to avoid any flanking charges, which can really do a lot of damage. So I put my stakes there just for that reason. But I'm going to be waiting here with my infantry until my cavalry have done their job. That's why I've deployed so far back. I knew that he would I suspected rather that he would probably have a regular deployment. He would be pretty close to the front line, so I deployed back, and now I want to use my cavalry. And you can see that if you look at the mini map up there in the top right, you can see that I've basically got him surrounded with cavalry at this point, and I'm just going to try and pick at his more vulnerable units. So I'm actually going to move all the way around back with my Imladris riders, and I'm going to keep my cavalry in place as well. I want to keep my lancers and my deadly charge units in front, so that if he tries to rush me, if he lets my cavalry go behind him and then tries to just rush forward, and then I will have something to stop him and keep him in place and allow my my mounted bowmen to do their job. Speaking of, let's go ahead and let's fast forward just a little bit here. This is going to be quite a lot of moving around like this. It's a very cat and mouse game, because if I leave my horse archers too close to his archers for too long, they will get shot to pieces. Maybe we'll use up some of his Goblin Archers' ammunition, and that would be nice. Then we won't have to have our infantry get shot. But it's not worth it. I really need to destroy those wargs. I paid a lot to bring his Imladris riders. They're nearly 1,000 when you fully upgrade them. So I want to get as much done as possible. Warg riders getting shot from the rear. Just gonna we're not gonna get a lot of kills early on. We have to shave off some of their HP first. But as time goes on, that accurate, very deadly Imladris rider bow fire is going to tell against them. Now, once they start to drop, that's when they start to really lose their HP, and you're going to start to see casualties mount really, really quickly. Now, Lucky Hussar kind of realizes what I'm going after here, and he's going to pull his Warg Riders out of there as quickly as possible. And now I've got my Imladris Riders over here firing into actually the rear of the Black Urux of the mountain, which isn't... It's not a terrible idea. They are very deadly, but there are better ways that I can use my bow ammunition, and ultimately I decided that, yeah, that's not worth it. I'm going to pull these guys out of there and try and fire at the wargs a little bit more. Now, there are some heavy Goblin Archers that moved into the back lines to try and fend off my Imladris Riders, but I've got 2 of them, so I can kind of bob and weave here a little bit. I'm actually going to swing back around to these guys, trying to stay out of range of them as much as I can, and then come in from the flank for another few shots against the wargs. Meanwhile, I'm going to try and keep the more obvious target here, the one that the goblins are actually firing at right now. I want to try and keep them more in range, but not so... I don't want to keep them so far in range that they get shot, but I also don't want to have them so far away that they're no longer a threat. But it looks like I am actually going to pull out a little bit there, which is, I think, a bit of a miss micro on my part. But I'm moving forward with my other company of Imladris Riders to get a piece of those Warg Riders as well. These guys are actually taking quite a lot of fire. I'm going to get a couple volleys off there, but I'm going to retreat very, very swiftly, losing a few of my Imladris Riders in the process. Meanwhile, Lucky Hussar is circling the wagons here. He's got a unit of his... Actually, he's got some hidden companies of Goblin Infantry as well. I guess I forgot to mention them because they were, hidden. But in any case, they are present on the battlefield. Goblin Archers moving forward to try and keep up with my Imladris Riders, but I'm actually a lot faster, and it's easier for me to move around and to get shots than it is for these guys to keep pace with my cavalry and to reform swiftly enough to actually form a decent firing line. So I do have the advantage in terms of my mobility. Well, I am falling back here with my Imladris Riders. I can't remember exactly what I was thinking at this point. I know that I saw these units of Goblin Infantry pop up, and I thought that they were also archers. So I thought he had like 2 units of archers here, and I didn't want to have my Imladris Riders anywhere near that. It's very boxy at this point. It's this tactical geometry at its finest. But there's not really a whole lot that he can do. He's outmaneuvered out here on the plain, so ultimately Lucky Hussar is going to decide that moving forward and trying to pick a fight with my fairly small amount of infantry is going to be the way to fly. Imladris Riders moving forward, trying to get a piece of these wargs. They're all blobbed up, but this is just a beautiful target here, one that is just screaming to be shot with my horse archers. Over here, my horse archers are basically screening them the entire time, just shadowing this large blob, trying to get a piece of whatever we can. I think this unit here is going to be going after the Bulk's champions a little bit, although maybe this is... I know these guys attempt a frontal charge at some point, and it doesn't go very well for them. But yeah, they're going to be firing almost point blank into the Bulls champions, enfilading fire here, going to shave off some of their HP. Really, that's the kind of firing angle that I want. That's the perfect angle. Imladris Riders here being chased down by the Warg Riders. Now I made a mistake here, and I didn't have these guys on fire at will. For obvious reasons, I didn't want them to use their ammunition too quickly. But they're not actually firing as they run away, so I have to stop and fire instead of doing the steady amount of DPS that I would have otherwise been doing. So a bit of a mistake there on my part. I think around this point I decide to turn it back on, or realize my mistake, and they turn it back on, and they'll be able to get a nice piece of those Warg Riders. But I could have destroyed this unit right here if these guys had been firing at it the entire time. So very, very unfortunate for me. A little bit of a micro mistake. They're going to cost me a really good opportunity. Imladris Riders right here, firing into the Wargs. They're just tanking that bow fire because they can. A lot of armor on that unit. They're firing into, I think, a massed company here of Bulk Champions and Warg Riders that have all come together. Just shaving off as much HP from these Warg units as I possibly can. You can see that they've really taken a lot of damage. They were at like 68 before, and now they've really taken some serious hits. Now I think Lucky Hussar realizes that maybe chasing my bowmen wasn't the greatest idea. So they are going to, these Warg Riders are going to start to fall back. But I'm going to pursue them as far as I can. I've turned on my my fire at will at this point, so I'm going to pursue them as far as I can across the plains and kill as many of them as possible, because they're going to be a big problem for my Lancer units a little bit later on. Yeah, there they go. He's trying to draw me back in towards his Goblin Archers, but I'm not too afraid of them. I know I can take them on pretty well, and yeah, so I'm just going to be very aggressive with my Horse Archers over on that end. Over here, though, this is where I definitely make a big mistake. I bring my Imladris Riders forward, trusting in their armor to get a nice charge of opportunity here against the heavy Goblin Archers, but it ends up not being worth it. I lose a lot of my Imladris Riders on the approach, and I think they're actually out of ammunition at this point, possibly. No, they're definitely not out of ammunition, so yeah, that was not needed. I probably should have just continued to dance around his formation. He's still quite a long ways from my front line, instead of getting these guys kind of shot to pieces. My poor Imladris Riders here down to 18, lost about 20 men on that ill-fated charge. Very unfortunate indeed, but I do have another opportunity over on this end. Imladris Riders able to fire basically freely. I'm going to go after the Warg Skirmishers at this point. A lot of these Warg Riders have had their HP shaved off. All of them have died, and the Warg Skirmishers, however, are more or less untouched. And the Bulk Champions as well are a big priority target of mine. The Warg Skirmishers trying to get away, but I am actually going to be able to pursue these guys quite aggressively at this point. But yeah, unfortunately, because of the loss of so many of my Imladris Riders, he's going to be able to move forward more or less without fear. So I'm going to charge forward with my Eternal Cavalry, try and get a piece of some of these heavy Goblin Infantry, try and thin them out a little bit, and then cycle back out before his bowmen can really react to that. I'm going to do the same thing over here as well. Another Eternal Cavalry moving in against the Goblin Infantry, and I feel pretty safe to do this because a lot of his wargs have been driven out of position by my mounted bowmen in the back there, and some of them are actually chasing my Imladris Riders as well. So I'm going to have a very textbook opportunity here to charge straight down into the Goblin Infantry. My Eternal Cavalry going to kill quite a lot of them. They're going to cycle back out again, just trying to take bites of my enemy here before he manages to get into combat against my infantry. Imladris Sentinels here, my real heavy hitters coming out. I've got my my Gwythi Rockdor around here somewhere as well. Not in the greatest position, however. I probably would have moved them, if I could do this battle again, I would move them a little bit farther onto the flank, so they are presenting a menace to the rear of his army as they move forward. But over here, Eternal Cavalry and Imladris Infantry is getting themselves into position. And they're charged forward here. by my Nortino cavalry. And I thought that these were goblin infantry, but I realized too late that they are goblin spears. And so they are going to get a good charge there, and it is going to do a fair amount of damage to the goblin spears, but it's actually going to do a lot of damage to my Nortino as well. And so I'm going to pull out of there, taking about 13 or so casualties in the process. But still, the company is very much intact at this point. So yeah, I can still be effective with that unit of Nortino cavalry. It wasn't a disaster. We have had a fair few disasters so far, especially with my poor Imladris riders. Now that small company still firing into some of the warg skirmishers, trying to take as much HP off those deadly warg units as possible, but we've really bled them dry of their wargs. You can see just piles and piles of dead wargs all around the battlefield, especially over here. We just got bled all the way back to the safety of their front line. Now over here, Eldar Quinga, and this is where the archers' turn. My foot archers' turn has come to do their job. And we're going to take some pieces out of the Black Heroics of the Mountain, try and deal with some of his more important deadly infantry, and again, just picking at those really important assets, and yeah, trying to bleed him of all of his important units before they even manage to get into combat. Because if we can do that, that is a huge win. I mean, if we do a little bit of damage to them before they get into combat, it's not as good, especially in the situation where we've invested so much in our cavalry to do just this thing. But if we can neutralize a unit before they even get into combat, that is a huge win for us, a massive loss of resources for our enemy. So meanwhile, the Black Heroics of the Mountains taking a fair amount of damage. The other company now coming under fire, and I think that Lucky Hussar has had enough of my shenanigans at this point. And I've still got my cavalry more or less in a position to surround him, and so he's still being threatened from all sides at this point. So he's being cautious, but yeah, now he is going to begin to move forward here with his front line and looking to engage my own. Gwythi Rockdor moving out. Definitely a deadly thing indeed for the Orcish wargs to have to deal with. Although over here, this is not the greatest thing. I was going for the Goblin Archers. I saw the wargs coming. I thought maybe I could do some more damage to them off the charge and hit the Goblin Archers at the same time. But I'm actually going to move in with my Imladris Riders and use them to cover the retreat. I'm going to throw them against the Warg Riders, get another charge off there, hopefully deal some damage to these guys. But that unit is going to be thrown under the bus to allow my Lancer Company to escape. Now over here, this is where another big mistake happens, and this is really down to just kind of unit pathfinding. Now I told my Eldar units, my Eldar Quinga, to get back behind my lines, but they kind of just sit here and don't really do a whole lot. You can see some of the units maybe trying to move, but yeah, ultimately I think these Eldar Quinga are gonna get caught out in the front. That's not gonna be great for them. Meanwhile over here, let's go ahead and slow it down just a little bit, just because a lot of stuff is happening. Got my Imladris Sentinels charging into battle against the Warg Skirmishers. They're going to do quite well indeed against them. The Spear Cavalry with their AP charge, they're going to chew out those Wargs. Both champions nearby, they could be reinforcing, but unfortunately they are not. Nortino Cavalry here getting a nice charge into the Black Heroics, trying to thin out that, again, trying to thin out another important unit for the Orcs of the Misty Mountains. But, yeah, my Eldar Quinga don't seem to want to retreat behind my lines, so I'm only going to be able to salvage one of my units there, which is very unfortunate indeed. That they could be used to great effect in a line battle like this, just firing into big blobs of Misty Mountain troops, or focusing down the wargs or the trolls even further. Over here, Nortino Cavalry, not sure what they're doing. I think they just pulled out of a fight there with the Black Heroics. They are going to get charged in the flank by some Bolgs champions. Not a good position for them to be in indeed. Imladris Sentinels really took a lot of damage fighting those Warg Skirmishers, but ultimately, ooh, yeah, they're going to find themselves in a bad position here too, getting focus fired down by those mounted javelins. But I think I see a nice opportunity here to go after the ranged companies of the goblins. So I'm going to take it. This is a really nice flanking charge here. I've got my Nortino Cavalry as well moving forward towards the Misty Mountain front line to try and get a nice hammer and anvil strike. So we're going to get that, and at the same time, we're going to get a nice charge into the Goblin Archers, do a fair amount of damage to them. Let's see what's going on over here. Look, oh my poor Gwythi Rockdor. While all this was happening, I'm trying to juggle all these cavalry units. The Warg Riders actually managed to get in there against my Gwythi Rockdor and kill a couple of them, which is normally a fight that my Gwythi Rockdor would win quite handily. But at this point, I'm just going to pull them back, and I'm going to use my Eldar Quingar in the back here to focus fire these guys down. There are 21 of them, and they're still a danger, and I want my Gwythi Rockdor to be as healthy as possible moving into the late game, because I still have the Bolgs champions to deal with, and that's going to be a really big problem. So my Eldar Quinga Gonna turn their attention to the Warg Riders. I'm gonna fire basically point blank into these guys as they chase my Gwythi Rocktor across the field. It's a little bit of kiting there, but it's definitely necessary to preserve the health of my Gwythi Rocktor. No Cavalry pulled out of that engagement there against the Heavy Goblin Infantry. They did a lot of damage, and so far my Elven Infantry is holding out very nicely. Although with the addition of some of these Cave Trolls over here, that's going to be a big problem. Another Hammered Anvil strike into the rear of the Heavy Goblin Spears by my Imladris Sentinels. Going to do a lot of damage to those guys, but it's just a drop in the pond. There's so many Misty Mountains Infantry still left to deal with. That's yeah, it's gonna be hard for me to handle them all. Over here, I move my Imladris Sentries against the Black Uruks of the Mountains. This is going to be no problem for my Imladris Sentries. Gwythi Rocktor, unfortunately, a little bit stationary. I could be using them for some Hammer and Anvil strikes. In the back here, you can see my Nortino Cavalry being chased off by the unit of Bulk Champions. I think I've still got a few Imladris Riders trying to do some damage to the Bulk Champions. I managed to kill one of them, so they are shaving off the HP. But now the time has come for an engagement here with my Gwythi Rocktor against the Bulk Champions. So that's going to be a really big, important, decisive battle. A lot of the Warg units have been bled dry at this point. Actually, this one unit of Warg Riders over here gave up chasing and charged in against my Elder Quinga, but there's not enough of them. So many of them got shot down, and most of them have been destroyed at this point. Very, very few of them left. So the Bulk Champions are the last big, scary unit that he has on the field that's mounted. So I want to destroy them, and I see them isolated over here. Now is the time. Now is the opportunity. So my Gwythi Rocktor going to charge into action. They're going to get a nice flanking charge here against the Bulk Champions. It's going to deny them their charge bonus. And a lot of those Bulk Champions are going to get cut down in the first few moments of that engagement. And this is the fight that I wanted to have for my Gwythi Rocktor. I wanted them to engage the Bulk Champions from a position of strength so that I could overwhelm them, destroy them quickly, and still maintain this unit. Because just 1v1, my Gwythi Rocktor would be so heavily depleted against the Bulk Champions that they would almost not even be worth having. Looks like Warg Skirmishers charging into battle against my Gwythi Rocktor while the Bulk Champions try to disengage, but they are down to a fraction of their former strength. Now down to about 6 or 7 men left in the unit. I've still got cavalry in the back lines running rampant and just being a complete pain in the butt. Much Sentinels here. I think I'm going to throw them under the bus against the Warg Riders to try and keep them in position while I come in from the rear again with my Nortino Cavalry. Big charge there. Going to do lots of damage. That's really going to thin out the goblins in the center. Their center is almost completely destroyed at this point. They are managing to break me a little bit on the wing. My Imladris, my Sentinels are in there, along with a few units of my infantry. But they are being overwhelmed by the Cave Trolls. It's a tough fight for them. And my Imladris sentries are kind of spread out a little bit against both Black Uruks of the Mountain, Goblin Infantry, and they're fighting the Trolls at the same time. Both champions coming in from the rear against my Eldar Quinga, who were actually firing freely into the flank of these Goblin Infantry. So they were doing their job, and Lucky Hussar he made a good decision, I think, going after these guys, because they would have eventually destroyed this flanking movement here. But over on my left wing, I am winning quite handily against the Black Uruks of the Mountain. They're being butchered by my Imladris sentries, and that's going to be a big deal a little bit later on. Nortino Cavalry, again, cycle charging into the rear of the Goblin units. I'm just going for the blobs at this point, trying to thin them out as much as possible. But I am really heavily losing on my right because most of my attention has been focused on my left. But again, I've only got so many cavalry, so I had to focus my attention somewhere. Over here, Gwythi Rocktor running away from the Warg Skirmishers, running over the Goblin Archers, and they're going to be charging smack into the rear of some of these Goblin Spears. Ooh, nasty flanking charge here from the Cave Trolls. This is really how you want to use Cave Trolls. Just these shock and terror units that are just such a nightmare to deal with. So my Gwythi Rocktor kind of being pushed out of position by the Warg Skirmishers. I could probably beat them, but I don't want to sit around and lose a bunch of units. So I am going to actually turn around and charge after they miss their charge. Go for a charge of opportunity. It's going to deal with those Warg Skirmishers in a real big way. And they are basically going to get massacred. But I was in a big hurry. I didn't want to wait for them any longer. And I wanted to get my general and his Inspire back towards my front line. So I'm going to send these guys hurtling into the rear of one of the last remaining big enemy blobs. But I'm actually going to get held up a little bit there, I think, by some of the Warg Riders and some of the other units. So I'm going to have to pull out and reform and go for another charge, narrowly avoiding a charge from the rear from the Warg Riders, which would have really hurt my Gwythi Rocktor. Going to get a fair amount of distance here. I'm going to turn back around and charge home. And this is going to be one of the more decisive charges right here. Heavy Goblin Infantry getting themselves absolutely massacred by my Gwythi Rocktor. Oop, I think the only reason these units are still alive is because of the presence of the cave trolls, or still alive, still fighting, is because of the presence of the cave troll drummers. So I know I'm going to have to deal with them at some point too. And Goblin Archers now having been committed to the front lines, and they are overwhelming my poor Eldar units. And it looks like he's managed to effect a breakthrough here. Heavy Goblin Spears have overrun my Eldar Itar, and my Imladris sentries are on the verge of collapse, completely surrounded. Got some Bolx Champions now in my rear as well, 6 of them. Gonna have to find a way to deal with these guys. Now, if they're running Hammer and Anvil attacks on my front lines, or on my back lines rather, then I might have collapsed almost immediately. But they go around the flank. They make the fateful decision to go around the flank, and my Gwythi Roktar are going to be waiting for them. And they're going to cut down a couple of the, or at least one of the remaining Bolx Champions, lose a couple of their men in the process. Over here, Goblin Archers shooting at my Gwythi Roktar, but honestly, it's not going to do anything to these guys. They have so much armor and so much shield, so I'm going to turn these guys back around, having dealt with Bolx Champions, and charge back into the Goblin Infantry. Ooh, that's some nasty damage there indeed, and that's actually going to cause some routing. And now I'm going to ping-pong back towards the Orcish General. I want to assassinate him. I know that the Cave Trolls are a really nice morale stick for the Goblin Infantry, but they're at the point where if I got their General, it might not even matter all that much. So I'm going to turn around here. Now that I've pushed the Goblin General out of position, I'm going to turn around and go for the Cave Trolls and the Goblin units in the center. We're actually going to kill some of them. And despite the presence of those Cave Trolls, I think these Goblin units start to rout, and I see that. I'm going to pull my Gwythi Roktar out again. And they're really just all that stands between my forces and complete and total collapse. You can see that we've actually kind of switched sides here. My Eldar units are almost on the Goblin side of things, and this one little blob here of Eldar Itar and Eldar Makar doing really good work against the Goblin Spears, but over here in my center, or closer to my left wing, I've been almost completely annihilated. But there is a saving grace. I still have a solid anvil to the hammer of my Gwythi Roktar. A lot of Imladris sentries here, almost a full unit, in fact, after massacring the Black Rose of the Mountain, are going to be available for throwing against what remains of the Goblin Infantry, which is not much at this point. Another devastating charge there from my Gwythi Roktar, going to rout some of the archers, and the rest of the forces are going to move against this small pocket here of Elven resistance. And now I'm going to go after, I'm going to ping-pong back towards the archers. Don't want them to use their fire arrows and rout some of my forces. And I see an opportunity here. I'm going to go for another charge here against the this blob of Orcish troops here, trying to avoid my stakes as much as possible. But I see an opportunity. The Bolx Champions are just kind of sitting out there, and I am going to be able to get on top of them before Lucky Hussar can act. And that is going to be the end of his general right there. And that is going to be the end of the fight for the most part. Let's take a look. We can't look at the percentages because there was other people watching in the game, so unfortunately we don't have that option this time around. But now those troops have been freed up and they're going to be thrown against my Eldar Makar. But another devastating charge from my Gwythi Roktar. And the loss of their general is going to be enough to destroy the goblins here. You can see that they're now being sandwiched between my remaining infantry, my cavalry, and my Imladris sentries. That's going to be all she wrote for the goblin forces. Once that cave troll goes down, that's going to be their morale stick gone. And there goes the cave troll, and one final charge into the goblin units. And that's going to be game over. Lucky Hussar admits defeat. A very good game to my opponent. Very devastating. Let's take a look here at just some of the carnage all along the front line. So there you have it. 3,000 kills there. Lucky Hussar managing to kill the majority of my army, which was comparatively quite small. But I think I wanted to show you guys this battle, one, because Lucky Hussar wasn't able to post it because of some technical difficulties, and two, because it really shows off the playstyle of Imladris. There is a way to play Imladris that is very effective, and I think that really comes down to using their cavalry and investing heavily in their cavalry, at least in terms of a field battle. In sieges, obviously, that's not going to be as much of an option. You have some heavy infantry units that you can fall back on in that instance. But Imladris and the High Elves are very, very strong. You need to be able to use them effectively, and you obviously need to not be countered. Obviously, if I was playing against Khan and he had a ton of horse archers, well, some of my unshielded units might have been in for quite a bit of a shock, especially my Norrituno cavalry. They might have been focused down. It might have been a different story, especially with some of the more anti-cavalry units that Khan has available to them. But when you're playing as Imladris, use your cavalry and know your... Again, this is just general advice here as well. Know your opponent's strengths and have a strategy going in. My strategy right off the bat was to take down the wargs and to destroy them as quickly as possible. And we bled them all the way across the fields, and by the time that they reached our front lines, they were at best at half strength and even a little bit lower in the cases of some of the units. So it really comes down to how you use the armies, and most of the armies in the game are like this. You can be successful with any of them. You need to find a comp that works for you in a situation that works for you, and you need to be able to exploit your enemy's weaknesses and just generally to play well, I guess. So yeah, we don't really have any faction in the game I think that is like horribly weak. They can all do very well for themselves. It just depends on how you use them. But in any case, that's enough preaching from me for now. I hope you guys enjoyed this battle, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Actually, hold on. I know you guys want to see the casualties, don't you? Gwaithir Rockdor, 416 kills, very impressive indeed there. A lot of my infantry did very well, although a lot of these, of course, are goblins, but so the numbers are a little bit inflated, but still. Imladris Riders, a lot of kills there, and most of those were wargs. Most of those, indeed, were his warg units. We managed to kill a huge number of wargs. Very, very nice. But in any case, my name is Jordan, also known as JMonster. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye!